Oh, welcome back, everybody. And I'm your host, John Craig, and you are with us for another edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth. And I think everything's working this week. Last week, we had to just completely shut it down because it started to glitch and it started to freeze up and started to shut down. But I think it's all working. I think it's all good today. So it's great to be here for another live edition. I see Terry online, and in the background, Tammy's in the background with us tonight, and others that will be joining us. It's whether it's live or I like it when people join us live though. But if you're picking up in the archives, I'm glad that you join us as well. And so I just wanted to let you know about who I am and who we are. And my name is John Craig, and my wife and I pastor Life of Worship Ministries here in Amarillo, Texas. And so if you're ever passing through, and like we had some visitors come through this last weekend, they were passing through and stopped in, had a great visit with them. Wish we could have had more time to visit with them, but they were able to spend some time with the tour portion and our weekly Shabbat services, and really enjoyed being able to meet them as they were going to Amarillo, because why? Amarillo is on the way. It's on the way. So because if you're coming from through Texas, either from south going up towards Colorado, Kansas, maybe you're going from Oklahoma through to New Mexico, vice versa, whatever it might be. Maybe you're coming down from the north and dropping down through the panhandle of Texas, heading towards Dallas or Lubbock or wherever. Amarillo is on the way. So we would love for you to stop by if you happen to be coming through on Shabbat, and talk about when do we meet on Shabbat. Well, it's 12 noon. We gather and we have our Torah portion study for it's about 2 hours. And then we have a little break, and then we come back at 3 p.m. and we have our regular services with praise, worship, ministry, and a message. And you can catch it all here on Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel. You can, be part of it that way. So anyway, just wanted to say, anytime that you can come, we would love to have you. And when you're live, even better. So, well, with that said, I didn't even mention this on Shabbat, but I'll mention it now. And if you haven't had an opportunity this month to give, you can go online to www.lifeofworshipministries.org. No, I'm sorry. That's our YouTube. www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. Lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And you can give online. There's a donate button, and you can do it that way. Or if you choose, our mailing address is also online, and you can mail in a love gift or a tithe or an offering, whatever works best for you. We want to try to make it simple. I see you, Joe. You're going to be listening there. Okay, cool. That's great. And like, share, subscribe too while y'all are at it. I'm going to go ahead and drop the banner in here so that way you can see it and get that website if you didn't have a chance to write it down. And let's see. Here we go. Got it right there. We have been going through a study of Enoch. And I know we've been, because of the last few weeks, because of the different things that we've been facing here within our family, and of course last week's computer issue, that we have had a little hiatus in going through the book of Enoch. So we're back. We're going to do that. We're going to do some more. And so if you have your copy of the book of Enoch, let's see. Let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at that. I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to make an adjustment. So make an edit, and we're not going to scroll any longer across the bottom of the page. We're just going to show it right there, lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And I'll put it up there for a little bit, and if I remember, I'll pull it back down. But there we go. That way, if you're like, oh, that's really annoying scrolling across the bottom of the screen, well, there we go. If you're like me, you're like, what's going on? Is it going to change? Is it going to change? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, so we're going to go to the book of Enoch. Haven't you? I know there's been a lot of different sessions here in the Book of Enoch, and we've talked about a lot of different things. And if you're like, I got some time in my hands, and you want to go back to the very beginning. We have all of the archives on the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, and you can go through each section by section, as we have kind of broken that down and looked at. I think it's been very interesting because so many different things that are in the Book of Enoch is actually part of the faith of those that call themselves Christians, those that will identify as Christians, or even those that attend Sunday services. And you think, you know what? I've heard my pastor preach that, and he's preached it out of the New Testament. And yet here in the Book of Enoch, it contains so many different things that maybe isn't necessarily so directly expressed within the Tanakh in the Old Testament, and or even in the Torah, but you can actually find a thematic connection between all of these different things from the book of Genesis all the way through the book of Revelation. So it's really good to actually have this background and this study in the book of Enoch, because it's really opened up and taking time and going through it. I think it's opened up my understanding even a lot more, saying, wow, there's just so many things that echo within this book that I have just known, I've studied, I've taught, and here it is. It's just like it's emphasized in so many different ways. So yeah, so that is also just one of the interesting things. It brings out a lot of different elements about what Enoch experienced, how it brings out a little bit of the relationship that he had with his encounters with the giants, and with the angelic, and these tours and these visions that he had, tours of heaven, tours around the world, visions within all of that, prophetic words, prophetic visions, prophetic dreams, the discussions he's had with it with his family about it as well. And every bit of it, we've been able to say, yeah, I can see where that's coming from. It does, you can't, and you can't just gloss over the fact that there's this discussion about the constellations and how they help for, they tell a story, they track the times and the seasons, they have so much meaning embedded within them, and as well as the different elements of the calendar and how that works. So uh and so the book of Enoch actually ends up being like a uh, I wouldn't really say it like an SOP, a standard operating procedural manual, um, but it actually it pretty much gives like the foundation of so many different things within Scripture, and causes many things in Scripture become very clear and very understandable. Especially, one of the things that we have found in terms of looking into the studies of the Zadok priesthood, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the high priestly uh, library, and a lot of the elements that come out of that. When we look at that, and we've had those studies, then we come back here into Enoch, it's like, oh, that's what he's talking about. So it's just very interesting, and the language that it's put in, it's put in language that actually is quite easy. It's quite readable. Now, some of it is a little obscure, uh, because when you get into the prophetic and history, there's a little bit of that element of like, well, okay, is this prophetic? Is this historical? Is it a blend of both? Is it like a cycle or a pattern that we see what happened in the past, what happened in the future? And I think we've seen some of that as well. And some of it just has to, it may not make sense if we don't have a good understanding about many of the historical events that have happened over the last, 5,000-6,000 years. And yet, when we have a little bit of an understanding, you don't have to be like a big uh, uh, history person, historicist, whatever you call it, with somebody that is like a history major or whatever. You don't have to do that. It's just a matter of, being aware. Being aware. If you've been following the Hebrew roots for any period of time, studying out our Hebraic heritage, there's elements of history that we learn along the way, and it helps many of the things within the New Testament actually make more sense because of those connections. All right, well, enough of the pontification today, and this is again going back to the Book of Enoch, and I gotta find it. Where were we? We were like over in chapter, my last mark of where we left off was over in chapter 92. So I'm going to go back to chapter 92 where my mark was, where we left off, and start reading there. And if it's some of it's like, yeah, we've already been here, we'll kind of jump forward even a little bit more and refresh, but it'll be a good refreshing, won't it? And by the way, I see you, Linda, in there, and say, and shalom, shalom, and welcome back to Texas. I understand you made that move during this whole thing of all the things that we've been working through with our family. There was a time that we were completely disconnected with things that were taking place, and in the meantime, and in the interim time, you moved, Linda, and so it's good to have you back in Texas, and Luann down in Arizona, and I haven't had an opportunity to find out how she's doing. So I pray that all is well with Lou in Arizona, and that's working well for her, and that she is finding the employment and all of those things that she was needing. Back in Providence Village, Texas. I don't even know where that's at, but I'm guessing it's down there in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex area. So, oh, she's got a job. That's good. She has. So very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I love it that we have family that we were able to stay connected with, like you, Linda, and you, Joe, and those that have been with us at Sukkot in the past, and Terry's just family, and then but also Eddie and Tammy. Of course, we have that connection every week at Life of Worship, as well as Let Us Reason Together and all that fun stuff. So, all right, well, okay, let's pick it up. Psalm 92, Enoch chapter 92, and I have my mark at verse 11. I really think we've already done this part, but I just didn't really mark it after that. So let's go on. Let's read. Let's take a look at it. Let's review if we need to then. And yeah, we're looking for a code. I know we are too. Oh, can you believe it? We're just I think we're under yeah, we're in the county of Elmer now. We're under 6 months. Under 6 months to Sukkot. It's getting close. Okay. Afterwards, this is verse 11. And during its completion, he shall burn the house of dominion with fire, and all the race of the elect root shall be dispersed. Wow. Wow, there's been so much that's going on. Okay, yeah, because remember we were talking about the different weeks and how that broke down. So we did go through this. And going on, it says afterwards in the 7th week. Yeah, we did talk about the 7th week. The perverse generation shall arise. Abundant shall be its deeds, and its deeds perverse. It sounds like the time that we're living in. And verse 14, sinners will be delivered up into the hands of the righteous, who during its completion shall acquire habitations of their righteousness, and the house of the great king shall be established for celebrations forever. So that's pretty cool. So think about that. I just think about how things are so set up for really bad things to happen on the streets of America this summer. I mean, everything is. I mean, the Bolsheviks, and I say the Bolsheviks are the modern democrat party, and in my opinion, and because they are communists. That's what Dmitry Duduman says, that there's about the riots in the streets and the cities on fire that were started by the communists. That was the vision. That was what Angel Gabriel told him. And yet now everything that we're seeing, not that this is not uncensored news time or anything, but we're seeing things unfold, and you just see the depravity and just the evil, the iniquity that's just amuck in this nation. It's like the evil is just being drawn out of people. Well, I think that's kind of interesting. Where sinners shall be delivered up in the hands of the righteous. Uh, and it's like because they're just spewing it out, and all we have to say is like round them up. I mean, you know, maybe we just need to round them up and have a big deliverance service or something. Maybe set the people free. Tell you what, there's some. I mean, we're talking some really demonic stuff happening through people that's being captured because of everybody's devices that people carry around with them. Just people, just really weird. Some of the stuff that's on the subways in New York City, crazy stuff. It's like we're reading it right out of the book of Enoch. And verse 15, every work of the wicked shall disappear from the whole earth. The world shall be marked for destruction, and all men shall be on the watch for the path of integrity. Yeah. And after this, on the 7th day of the 10th week, there shall be an everlasting judgment, which shall be executed upon the watchers, and the spacious eternal heavens shall spring forth in the midst of the angels. The former heaven shall depart and pass away, a renewed heaven shall appear, and all the celestial powers shine in sevenfold splendor forever. Afterwards, likewise, shall there be many weeks, and there shall externally exist in goodness and in righteousness, neither shall sin be named there forever and ever. Who is there of all the children of men capable of hearing the voice of the Holy One without emotion? Who is there capable of thinking of his thoughts? Yeah, I remember we were talking about these rhetorical questions, kind of like out of the book of Job. Who is capable of contemplating all the workmanship of heaven? Who of comprehending the deeds of heaven? He may behold its animation, but not its ruach. He may be capable of conversing, but not of ascending. He may see all the boundaries of these things and meditate on them, but he can make nothing like them. Who of all men is able to understand the breadth and length of the earth, by whom have been seen the dimensions of all these things? Is it every man who is capable of comprehending the extent of heaven, what its elevation is, and by what it is supported? How many are the numbers of the stars, and where all the luminaries remain at rest? So, yeah, those rhetorical questions, those elements that basically come back to saying, wow, there's just one, and it's just the Most High. It's just Yahweh, and He's the one that is able to comprehend it all because He's the one that created it all. Verse 90, chapter 93. And now let me exhort you, my children, to love righteousness and to walk in it. For the cycles of righteousness are worthy of exception, acceptation. That's a weird kind of use of that word. Okay. But the paths of iniquity shall suddenly fail and be diminished. To men of note in their generation, the paths of oppression and death are revealed, but they keep far from them and do not follow them. Now let me exhort you, righteous, not to walk in the paths of evil and oppression, nor in the paths of death. Approach them not, that you may not perish, but covet. And choose for yourselves righteousness and a good life. Walk in the paths of peace, that you may live and be found worthy. Retain my words in your innermost thoughts, and obliterate them not from your hearts. For I know that sinners counsel men to commit crime craftily. Isn't that right? I mean, I was listening to like uh, James O'Keefe and their undercover journalists about how in the halls of the Pentagon and the secret rooms of the Pentagon, how they're counseling together to bring about the fall of this administration. It's just crazy stuff. And they are not found in every place, nor does every council possess a little of them. Woe to those who build iniquity and oppression, and who lay the foundation of fraud, for suddenly they shall be subverted and never obtain peace. Woe to those who build up their houses with crime, For from their foundation shall their houses be demolished, and by the sword they shall fall. Those too who acquire gold and silver shall justly and suddenly perish. Woe to you who are rich, for in your riches have you trusted, but from your riches you shall be removed, because you have not remembered El Elyon in the days of your prosperity. But you have committed blasphemy and iniquity, and are destined to the day of the effusion of blood, the day of darkness, and to the day of great judgment. Yeah. I know that's a mouthful, but I think if you listen to it and you say, wow, all of this evil. I mean, if you're like me and you're watching the events that are taking place, and you see these hundred and how many 162 lawsuits. I don't know all these different things. You say these people are they're just they're fallen. They're just evil, and what they're trying to do to just slow down anything and everything that the Trump administration is doing. But but and we're reading this stuff, and it's like it's telling us about them. It's telling them about ultimately the final outcome. And I know, like you, it's like it's not happening fast enough. It's like, can we not get vengeance? Can we not? Can Will they not avenge us? Will you not avenge us? Avenge us, oh Yahweh. It makes me think about over in the book of Revelation, where it's in the sixth seal, I believe it is, and where you have the martyred that are under the throne of heaven, and they're crying out to Yahweh, how much longer, oh Yahweh, until you avenge us? I think about that as like it's almost like, are we like those that are underneath the great throne that are crying out because of such um such evil that's taken place, such harm that's taken place? And are we like, how much longer? How much longer must we endure this thing? How much longer until you come? Bo Yeshua Bo. I mean, how much longer until you come and you destroy our enemies, as so much is done to try to demoralize and to just destroy that which is good within our nation. Where they call certain things that are actually evil, and they call it good, and all of that. We groan and we moan about the decay and the demoralization that we've seen and we continue to see. It's like, will you not avenge us? These people that have held it over our heads, these people that have not been accountable to the rule of law, the true rule of law, not their rule of law, but the true rule of law. How much longer until we see some type of justice take place? And then I don't know what you all up there in Canada are thinking at this point in time after the election of Mark Carney, when it's like, well, you didn't like Trudeau, but you got somebody worse. And I know there was dynamics that played into it, and a reason why there's this knee-jerk reaction, and he was put in there. But maybe it'll be short-lived for you guys. Maybe there'll be a big awakening, and that you'll break free. And we had to deal with that 4 years of Biden, and now you've had how many years of Trudeau, and it looks like even worse now, in my opinion. And this is where we just have to dig down. We have to work. We have to pray doubly as powerfully as we ever have before. And when we see these things continuing to rise up, you think there's no resting on our laurels. I mean, I think that a lot of people in President Trump's first term said, "Whew, well, we got out of the Obama years, and now we got somebody good in there," and a lot of people just like, okay, you know, okay, we trust that everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be taken care of, and we're just going about our business and living our lives and all that type of thing. And and it was all, in the meantime, there was just all sorts of evil going on. Even then, it then Biden came, and we thought Obama was bad, and then Biden came through, and it was just so destructive, just so destructive. He didn't even know all of the things that were being signed in his name. And so now that we have this kind of relief, I won't say a reprieve, but kind of a relief, I don't know about you all, but I feel like the intensity is even more. And because evil is trying to bolster its strength. And so it's all the more for us to pray, all the more for us to press in and say, how much longer, oh Yahweh, how much longer will it be before you avenge us for the evils that have been done and those things that have made it so difficult for many, many people across the nation, with the cost and a cost of just to live and to survive, let alone, to have a voice, to be able to voice an opinion. So I kind of see this and as like, well, but there is really a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not close to the end of the tunnel right now. But there's light, and light, sunlight is a good um, disinfectant. Sunlight is a good disinfectant. So where the rats are scurrying, the rats are coming to the light, and let them scurry on out of the country. I've heard some people are actually saying they're leaving the country. Well, I'm like, yeah, good. See you later. I don't mean to make this political or anything, but this is what it reminds me so much here in the book of Enoch. And verse 9 of 93 says, "This I will declare and point out to you, that he who created you will destroy you. When you fall, he will not show you mercy, but your creator will rejoice in your destruction. Let those then who shall be righteous among you in those days detest sinners and the wicked." I think it really sums it up with that. And I really think that therefore it's you've heard the phrase before, hate the sin, love the sinners. But Yahweh finds that the people that are living and have been the oppressive rulers, living detestable, perverted lifestyles, that that he has them just marked up for destruction unless they repent. And it says here that, but your creator will rejoice in your destruction. So if someone's listening to me right now and been part of the mindset of the generation, this fallen generation, and even supporting and voting and sending money in to these baby killers and these ones that want to really want to get a hold and pervert the innocent minds of our children, and all of that, that whether one is doing it themselves, but if they're supporting that party, Pastor Sandy's just said it this way: a vote is like, for that party, for anybody in that party, is like a hired is like the one who hires the gun, right? Who hires the gun. So if a gunman is hired to go kill somebody, the one who hires the gunman is just as guilty, and sometimes even more, gets even more of a harsh punishment than the one who pulls the trigger. And we have to be careful that we're not aligning ourselves. Well, but this guy is a good guy. Well, but it doesn't really matter, because when they get to the halls of Congress or wherever they're at, they join ranks, and they're not allowed to maintain an independent thought or an independent vote, and let alone hold to any type of family values or morals or anything like that. And that's just the way it is. We have to recognize that reality and recognize that destruction is coming. And get this, that Yahweh can you put your mind around this, that Yahweh rejoices in their destruction? That's something to me is almost, you think, well, he's a loving God, he's a loving Yah, and he loves, and it's so abundant, it just oozes from it. It's his very essence. In First John, it says God is love. And I mean, that is like an equal sign. That's who he is. That's what his nature is. And yet in his great love, he cannot allow that type of people, those type of people, that any type of person like that inside of his kingdom, for the fact that uh, it could create a perversion within his own family. And he doesn't want that to happen. So he delights in keeping the people out that that uh, that would bring in the mixture, that would bring in corruption, that would bring in chaos, that would bring in confusion, that would bring in rebellion and disloyalty, and they cannot be there. So in one sense, it's like, wow, it seems really harsh that he would even laugh at their destruction. And uh, I know it didn't say laugh; it says rejoice, but it, but when you think of what he's protecting, that's what really makes a lot of sense to me. It's who is he protecting? And therefore, he will say, look, no, you're an enemy, and I rejoice in your destruction because I rejoice over my own and I protect them. And I really kind of see that's kind of the perspective that Enoch is trying to communicate to us about. So, Terry, we'll you just pick us up in the archive. Okay, it's okay if you're and but thank you for joining us for this little bit. We're going to go on to well, remember verse 11. It says, "Let those then who shall be righteous among you in those days detest sinners and the wicked." Why? Because we got to understand. We've got to say, you cannot come into our camp. No. Look what you're doing. Look at what you have done to our families. Look what you've done to our children, even if it's not our own child, but what you've done to these other children. These things where you've indoctrinated them into and with these horrible books that are in the school libraries that are being read in kindergarten and first and second grades and even others, that all the developmental stage of these children are so innocent, and they're so pure, um and they trust anything and everything that these adults are saying. And you people are causing the little ones to stumble and to fall by putting this corruption inside of their heads. And when it should be the time that they're learning to read and to write and to do math, and they're going through this the early education part of their life, and things are becoming solid within their lives, and they're starting to learn the uh, three-dimensional concepts, as they get into the middle to later elementary ages, and and one that would come in and take advantage of them during that time period. I mean, that is wicked. And so, yeah, we detest the sinners and the wicked. And you know, okay, so there's a little bit of love for anybody that repents, but if someone is just simply going to be wicked and they're even putting on a face, well, I want to change, and they bring in bad teachings and bad doctrines and all of that sort of stuff. That type of evil. It's like, look, I'm still gonna, I'm just gonna keep you at arm's distance, you know, because I don't even want that to spill off on me. I really don't. I don't want it in my house. I don't want it around me. And so it's very important. So we look at it. It's like, well, what about the person that's walking down the street, or you passing it in the grocery aisle, or whatever? And you know what? There's a time and place for um, loving someone to Yahweh, and being polite and courteous, and providing uh, a life preserver, and to draw them in. And sometimes, there's a time that we must use wisdom. So that's what we have to do. So yeah, Kirk Cameron's putting out books for children about biblical principles, and is fighting to get them in the libraries, and get the transgender junk out. Yeah, Baruch Hashem for Kirk is what Tammy said. It's really good. Now we need to pray. I just read an email. I just deleted it, but There's some very strong, very good books. They're up in one of the libraries in New York, somewhere in New York State, and they are throwing them out of the libraries because the of all different things they said our library represents all points of view. And so what are they doing? They're removing a point of view out of that library. It doesn't make sense. I mean, can you believe they'd even said our library reflects all points of view, and so therefore we're going to get rid of these books. And these books, are holding to good biblical family constitutional values, and are for the children. I can't have it. I can't have it because it's not representing their fullest point of views, where they got very biased books, just like we know what's going on. Uh, so so the evil is there, and I know I kind of brought in the current events to kind of exemplify these things with Enoch, and I know I did it last time when we were going through this as a refresher, and as we're going through a refresher this time. But I think things are very clear, more clear than as we approach the day of Yeshua's return. It's like the line is becoming very, very distinct. And that's what we want to see. We want to see the distinction. And we want people to be able to say, I am definitely not on that side. And we want people to say, when they come on board with the side of righteousness, that it's not just because they are good moral people, even though that's important as well, but it's because they've come out of the darkness and they are repenting. They're making teshuvah. They are coming to know Yeshua, and they recognize too that so much of everything that's been taught all their lives in modern churchianity that has actually been only a partial truth. It's kind of like that whole idea of being red pilled into understanding. It's like, wow, I had no idea that this is the reality that we're living in. And many of us have been red pilled, and we're like, oh, and we're still being red pilled, and we're still having our eyes open to the horrible nature of the disguise of the counterfeit that they want us to believe was the United States of America and the Constitutional Republic and all that sort of stuff. And but it's the same thing. It's really, honestly, it's the same thing in our faith, that so much of our faith has been a counterfeit or disguised, or just we've been only given a limited area to fully understand, which many people embrace, but they say anything outside of this can't be truth. But being red pilled within our faith causes us to be able to understand that the connection of Hebraic roots is not just history, but it's foundational doctrine for us to fully grasp and understand and know Yeshua as Messiah and beyond, understanding the fullness of the Melchizedek kingdom and what is to unfold and what is to come, and why these things must take place. So when we so I pray that anybody might pick this up will have the red pill of faith, saying, well, you know what, I always thought it was just, the Old Testament is for the Jews and the New Testament is for the Christians, but no, the whole Bible, the whole truth is for the believers in the Most High, who will seek and pursue him and have earned that gift of salvation through Yeshua the Messiah. And that is truly what it's really linked into, that we've received our forgiveness of our sins, but also, as we were talking about Shabbat, that destruction of death is completed because of the grave. And so therefore this is but it's only a step in the process, because only the fullness of uh, of of it all culminating together doesn't happen until we see that in Revelation 21 and 22, when we see the new heaven and the new earth. That's when the culmination of everything. I mean, we had to have the event of Yeshua being hung on the tree, buried in the grave with a stone, and him descending so that he could ascend and being raised from the dead on the third day, is that is as great as that is, it's not the culmination. The culmination of all of history is in Revelations 21:22, when we become one with our bridegroom. We come, who is light, and we are clothed in the glorious um, um, resurrected body. And that's when it all culminates. And then we enter in. And just as we have read even today, that's when the new heaven and the new earth, this renewal of the heaven, the renewal of the earth takes place. And yet, and all of this perversion, the sinners, the wickedness, the iniquity, the reprobate minds, all of those different things are cut off forever. And we no longer are we grieved by those things. And this is where Enoch ties all of these pieces together for us to say, look, this is our expectation and this is our hope. Psalm 94 reads, "Oh, that my eyes were clouds of water, that I might weep over you and pour forth like rain and rest from the sorrow of my heart. Who has permitted you to hate and to transgress? Judgment shall overtake you, you sinners. The righteous shall not fear the wicked, but Elohim will again bring them into your power, that you may avenge yourselves of them according to your pleasure. Woe to you who shall be bound by execrations, that you cannot be released from them, the remedy being far removed from you on the account of your sins. Woe to you who recompense your neighbor with evil." Yeah, those who pay your neighbor and you pay them back for the good that they've even done, and you pay them back with evil. For you will be recompensed according to your works. Guess what? What goes around comes around. It like think about this. Multiple arrests for those people that have been destroying Teslas, burning Teslas, key scratching Teslas, uh, fires to the Tesla dealerships, and lots of people being arrested, caught, and outside of the one that was up in Minnesota, who's just been told, you have to make restitution, but you're not going to go to jail. As much as there's like a $20,000 felony for what he had done, and and he gets a slap on the wrist, and you just pay it back, and you're not going to prison. Well, these others are facing. These are felonies. It costs a lot to fix a Tesla. Honestly, it does. There's certain dynamics in repairs that actually increase the cost, and which means once you hit those felony thresholds, then if you did it more than once, wow, that's multiple felonies, and so they have to pay it back. They're going to pay it back one way or another, and part of it is looks like imprisonment. Part of it is going to be what they have to pay when they get out, and so in court ordered restitution. So these are just things that what we see in the natural, but what Enoch's talking about is like, no, this is a reality for anybody that doesn't repent. These people that are just crazily evil. I say that they're insane with evil. So yeah, at least some of them being held accountable. Even these two judges so far, there's going to be more coming. They're really they're looking at a lot. They're doing a huge investigation. Um, I think in the next 2 or 3 months, we're going to see some big names out there, and yet that's here in the natural. But what Enoch is talking about is he's talking about it's more than a roundup of evil people, even though it's almost like even though we may have a part in that, it seems like the way he's discussing it, but the roundup of evil that comes together at the end time, like over in the book of Revelation, isn't it? Revelation chapter 18, when Hasatan and the false prophet the anti-Messiah are gathered up and they're thrown into the lake of fire. So yeah, and all those associated with them, those that hated good, and they were promoting evil ways. Sometimes I just think people just don't they lack uh, farsight, foresight? They're not farsighted enough. They lack foresight. They are very nearsighted. They only are looking at the stuff that's right there in front of them and not actually not recognizing the consequences in the natural, but let alone to have to be so spiritually dull and of having an eternal perspective and having any type of eternal significance, except for, there are those that are the Satanists out there, the LGBTQS, S for Satanism, that are out there. And yeah, they're very much aware of that which is beyond the natural, but they lack the awareness of the eternal um, consequences for what one does. Yeah. 95 verse 2, in the day of sufferings of sinners, your offspring shall be elevated and lifted up like eagles. Well, that's good. Your nest shall be more exalted than that of the Avest. You shall ascend and enter into the cavities of the earth and into the clefts of the rocks forever, like conies from the sight of the wicked. Isn't that's good to be so far removed from the wicked like that. Who shall groan over you and weep like sirens? You shall not fear those who trouble you, for restoration shall be yours. Did you get that, Linda? Right? Okay. You shall not fear those who trouble you, for restoration shall be yours. A splendid light shall shine around you, and the voice of tranquility shall be heard from heaven. Woe to you, sinners, for your wealth makes you resemble for your wealth makes you resemble Kedoshim, but your hearts reproach you that you are sinners. This word shall testify against you for the remembrance of crime. And I think we've kind of touched on a little bit of the nature of wealth. And it's not that it's the wealth, it's that it's kind of like which parable was it? Is the rich young ruler who said, I've kept all these commandments, um, as since the beginning, and yet he had a lot of wealth. And Yeshua said, well, then go and sell everything that you have and follow me. And he went away very sad. And because ultimately, isn't that what's holding our heart? It's really what's holding our heart. And that's they can be very good. They can be very good people doing good and righteous things. And yet their heart is far from Yahweh, because you have forsaken the foundation of life. And that's it. I mean, to rely on one's wealth as opposed to relying on the Most High for life. It's one of the transformations that I've seen in President Trump since he was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And uh and and I think it really made a lot. It's like, he has a lot of wealth, been under a lot of attack for a lot of different, all the lawfare against him, but of all the wealth and all the ability to hire the best protection and all of that, he still um, found himself to be very vulnerable. Just a centimeter or two in one direction, and he wouldn't be with us here today. And I think that reality really sank in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I think it's carrying through. I think he's been very sober minded, understanding that the people that dislike him are many. He wouldn't have thought that back in the 1980s when he was in the 1990s when he was, on news shows and talking about the things that needed to change, and his suggestions that he had, and if he had the opportunity to do it, he would do X, Y, and Z, which he's doing today. And that he didn't want to seek the presidency. He said, but if nobody else would do it, then I'm going to have to do it. Well, what had happened? Nobody else would do it, and actually, put into practice the things that every one of us said we wanted our representatives to do for us. And so the sobering reality of, some people said, oh, it's such a setup and all that. No, when you've got a cross breeze like there was out there in Butler, Pennsylvania that day, and all the different elements to be able to get a shot off. And if one is like, yeah, I'm just going to nick you, you're going to have somebody that is like one of the best sharpshooters in the world, because to catch his movement at the right time where he bent down and moved, and then the bullet nicked his ear, guys, that if people say, well, maybe they practiced it. Yeah, how, when, where? I mean, the nonsense that some people have said and talked about that, it was divine protection, and I think Yahweh has used it in his life, and so all of a sudden now these things shift, because where it says, because you have forsaken the foundation of life, that now I think, for only the Father knows exactly where President Trump is and all that, but that's him saying, I want to protect Christians from persecution, where they've been the most persecuted religion of people, or group of people, demographic, in all of history. Well, I would say all of history. Well, probably in all of history. I mean, yeah, the Jews have gone through a lot too, but the Christians have gone through tons of stuff. And I mean, I think, no, seriously, the real believers and what they had to put up, even with with the Catholic Church pursuing them and persecuting them, let alone those that were messianic and all of that throughout all the ages. So, yeah, these are all different elements, but but this idea that one could have a repentant heart, but they're in the position of wealth, and then now they give that loyalty to the Most High. So I don't know. It's a very interesting thought, isn't it? So I'm kind of just pondering. Woe to those who act iniquitously, fraudulently, and blasphemously. There shall be a remembrance against you for evil. Woe to you, powerful, who with power strike down righteousness. For the day of your destruction shall come. At that very time, many and good days shall be the portion of the righteous at the period of your judgment. Well, yeah, that takes us through chapter 95. And again, Enoch is just simply saying, look, the point of judgment, the great white throne judgment, as we've come to know it, that place that is actually brings about a termination of anybody's ability to exercise and practice free will, at that great white throne judgment, by which they answer to the wickedness of their own lives, and they're able to say, well, you had your time, and here we are, and that time's over. And yet Enoch is actually bringing out a very good point. He's talking about the destruction of the wicked here, but it's very important to pull out here that very time, many and good days shall be the portion of the righteous at the period of your judgment. So that the righteous, they don't. It's not. There's not the conclusion of a person's life. This body might wear out, and this body might be put in the ground, but 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 we continue to live, and we continue to have good days and many days, because that's the portion of the righteous. The righteous patterns that we learn right now, these things that we put and make as a lifestyle, and how we live and how we express ourselves and how we interact with each other, and how we go about through the expression of the living Yeshua Messiah within us, the living Torah scroll working within us, this thing that was where our heart was once a heart of stone, now is a heart of flesh, and he's writing his word upon our heart, and it becomes the expression of our life, that out of the abundance of our heart that our mouth speaks. It's out of the abundance of this expression that we find ourselves doing things that are righteous, that are good, those things that are pleasing to the Most High. That is, those are all of the foundations. We're not saved by those. We're saved by grace. We know that. That's it. It's by his mercy, because we said we can't do it on our own, and we repent and we turn to you, Yahweh, to come into our lives and to live in me in power, so that I can live for you. And that living for him is this walk of righteousness. And I think we should never forget that. Or it's like, sometimes it's like, the I don't think we should ever, if we ever feel like we're getting worn out for walking through the paths of righteousness, and the cycles of righteousness, going through the Torah portions and the feast days and all that sort of stuff, and if we ever hold it as just the same old thing year after year after year, then we're missing it, and we need a salvation check. We really do, because every day needs to be new. Every Torah portion needs to be new. Every feast day, then when we experience it, needs to be new. It needs to be at full expression that we haven't arrived and we don't know it all. And if we ever feel like we have, we need to get on our knees and we need to repent. And that's really, really, I think this is what part of living righteously is about, is always recognize, being in tune with even the frailties of our own heart and our own weaknesses, where sometimes we do get tired, and sometimes it's like, is this just this or that? And we haven't challenged ourselves. We haven't pressed in enough. Well, it's time. It's over. We'll see y'all next time, y'all willing. And love y'all. See y'all on Shabbat. This is Pastor John with Walking in Spirit and Truth. Shalom.
If you missed today's show, or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.